It's a diagnosis that experts now say is more prevalent than autism or cerebral palsy among children, yet it's not as well known. Tonight, there's new research about pediatric feeding disorder. Whitney's here to fill us in on it. Whitney?
Yeah, that's right, Spencer. So a new study found 1 in 37 children have pediatric feeding disorder, or PFD. It's very complex. Children may have challenges swallowing, severe food allergies, or may even need a feeding tube for their survival. That includes a Valley family who's been impacted by this, who knew nothing about it before 2 of their children were diagnosed. While dinner in their house may be different, the Perry's children love to be outdoors, they like video games, and their daughter always wants to do whatever her brothers are up to.
They don't think they're any different than any other kid out there. I mean, other than they have a feeding tube, and they're not really shy about that.
2 of Kriya and Brant Perry's 3 children, Braden and Sydney, have pediatric feeding disorder, or PFD. It started when Braden was 4 months old. He ate an avocado and broke out in hives.
Braden has a disease called eosinophilic esophagitis, and unfortunately it ends up being a little tricky because he can have reactions to food in his esophagus, and we won't know physically. We won't see anything on the outside.
He wasn't gaining weight, so they got medical help. Years later, their daughter was also diagnosed. At one point, the family was introduced to Feeding Matters, a nonprofit that helps children like theirs.
It affects kind of the feeding skill side, maybe not being able to chew if you're switching from purees to solids. There might be a medical issue at play, maybe some allergies in your esophagus.
Jacqueline Peterson with the group says one of the first questions people ask is how many kids have PFD. The recent research that looked at data as far back as 2009 proves it often goes undiagnosed.
The biggest thing that I tell families is when mealtimes feel off or they feel stressful, that means that something's wrong.
Meantime, the Perrys want other families to know they are not alone.
I think like a lot of things, it's overwhelming at first and at times, but you do kind of get a routine. You reach out to resources, other people that have been through it.
Well, Feeding Matters has been one of the big resources for them. They have a lot of information online, including a kind of quiz and guide for parents that can help them identify symptoms. Now, recently, PFD was also given its own ICD code in a manual doctors use, which essentially means it will be easier for families to get answers and help with insurance.